Mm.
Hello, welcome to the SalesScreen Game Master series. This session is called Engage Your Team, and we're going to be going over the battles and the social feed, plus taking a closer look at SalesScreen Labs and the options available right now, as well as the Power Players program, which some of you might not be aware of. So this is a series for leaders who know the basics of how to use SalesScreen as an app and are ready to focus on advanced settings of how to use SalesScreen to motivate. But please feel free to ask any questions you want in the chat, including beginner questions, and we will answer there, or we might discuss live further at the end, depending on the topic. So today, specifically, we're going to be doing a complete breakdown of battles and exactly how they work, ideas on how to leverage your social feed, and as I said, the intro to SalesScreen Labs and Power Players. So we're going to dive right in with battles. So if you aren't familiar with this feature, it is available on your SalesScreen right now, but what they are specifically is a one-on-one battle between two players for a specific metric. So you can think of it kind of like a competition, but it's always head-to-head, and it is always, and in the past, it has always been initiated by one of your team themselves rather than you needing to create it. We now have the ability for you to assign battles to people, and that might be really good in the beginning for getting them to get more comfortable with the idea. But ideally, you have a culture where people feel comfortable giving themselves a little bit of a challenge and extending a friendly challenge to others. So some of the ideas we're going to be talking about are ways to get people to feel more comfortable initiating those battles themselves, because that is the way they're kind of intended to function. And users can do this by choosing the new button and picking battles. Or they can do this in the browser app or in the mobile app, and it's a little plus button in the middle. And we're going to go over specifically how to do that in a second. And the battles can have a target, like a certain amount, either of sales or something like that, that they both want to hit. And it could be like a race to see who gets there first. Or you can have it just be a set amount of time, and then whoever, say, makes more sales or makes more deals in that time is the winner of the battle. Now, the reason that these battles work, the most the effective features about them is that they're initiative based. If you can get people to the point where they feel comfortable starting these battles, then you give people something that they can control for themselves. If you have very competitive players, they don't have to sit around waiting for you to create a competition. They can create this for themselves as a way of extra motivation. And it's just social. It creates a little bit of an environment where everyone is more interested in each other and what we're accomplishing. And that tends to create a snowball effect of people wanting to achieve. There's certain amount of excitement in the risk reward factor because players can bet coins on their battle. So as you open your challenge, you can put a certain amount of coins that you will give to your opponent if they win the battle, or that they will give to you if you win the battle. So those coins get frozen right away upon the initiation of the battle and then released out at the end. So if you lose, you're going to lose those coins forever, but if you win, you're going to get those coins back plus some coins from your opponent. And then there's also just bragging rights. So even if you don't bet coins on battles, you can have them announced on your screens, and they will pop up in people's little browser windows when they're initiated. They'll get notifications on the feed when people come in and start a battle, so other team members can comment if they want and egg people on. And so there's ways to highlight that a little bit more that we're going to go over, but it's not just a social option between the two players in the battle. There's also a social element for bystanders as well, and hopefully they are inspired to start battles of their own. So I'm going to get into the specifics of how to start a battle, but I think this is going to make more sense as Cliff's notes. We're going to send these slides out to you. I'm going to just share my screen and we're going to go through it live together. One moment. Here we go. So this is all assuming you're on the browser. If you need any help and it seems unfamiliar, if you try to do it in the mobile app, feel free to reach out or try our help wiki, but the steps are essentially the same. We're going to click new, click battle. So when you get to your first screen, you're actually suggested players of various difficulty levels. That's their battle rating, and it's calculated on how many battles they've won or lost. It is based on the chess ELO system. So if you are interested in knowing more of the details about how that works, I would look into that. But basically, a higher score means somebody's more difficult to beat. A lower score means they might be a little bit easier to beat. So I'm going to pick somebody of moderate difficulty. We're going to say difficulty. We're going to say Blakely. And on the next screen, I can choose the metric that I'm battling on. So I'm going to battle for number of quotes sent. And this is where I was talking about, we can set a goal and say the goal is whoever gets to 10 quotes first. But what I'm going to do instead is just going to say the battle starts when Blakely accepts it, and that it's going to go for 1 week. At this point, I can bet some coins. I'm going to say 35 coins if I win, or 35 points of Blakely if she wins. The personal message is kind of my initial invitation to the battle. That's only going to be seen by your opponent when they first see it. And then we have the screen taunt, which is going to be displayed on screens anywhere that this battle is highlighted. And it's intended for some friendly ribbing. I can make this a private battle, but we're trying to encourage people to share these and get really involved. So there might be certain times where that makes more sense. But in general, we encourage you to uncheck that and go on. And I'm going to send this. And that will arrive as an invitation for Blakely. When I get that back, it'll be part of it. So I can go and I can check out my battles, but right now I just have battle requests. But once Blakely accepts that battle, it's going to show in one of these slots right here. If I wanted to assign a pairing to a battle as a manager, I can do that as well. In this case, I would go to Manage and then Battles. I'm going to click New Battle in the upper right corner right here. And I'll pick 2 opponents to go against each other. So I'll say Charles and Damon are going to battle. I'll also put them on quote sent. And I'll say that this lasts all of next week. So I'll say from the 4th. Save. To the to the 8th. Again, I'm not going to set a goal here, but I could. And I'll send them a little message about maybe why I paired them together, or just some encouragement. And again, I could make this one private as well. And maybe you would do that in the beginning if you were trying to just get people used to the concept as battles. But if people aren't particularly shy, again, I recommend making it public. And I will create that battle. And then similarly, I'm going to need to wait for them to come in and accept that battle. But it'll show as an in progress battle right now. So once these are out there, especially once more and more people are battling, you do want to encourage people to keep track of battles and, want to have a competitive score. So there's a few different ways we can hype these. And we have 2 different hype slides that you can add to your screen playlist to publicize any battles that are ongoing, and also to publicize the scoring. So that the more that you create a kind of a cachet around having a high battle score, the more motivation there is to keep battling, whether or not you're using a point system. So I'm going to go to my screens, manage screens section, and click create a new slide. I could also do this by going to slides first and clicking create a new slide. And you're in the, it's the gamification category. And then there's a subcategory that's just called battles. That's where all of your battle hype slides are. There's not too much to customize on these. The only thing that you'd really need to customize, if say maybe I only want my outbound team to do battles, I could just do those and have only their info coming to the screen. In this case, I want everybody to be able to show their battles if they're in one. I could pick a new background, but the background of the current slide is actually pretty good. So I'm going to leave it as is. You don't need to pick one. And this section here, this side variant where it says leaderboard, that's just going to show the rankings of your battlers, of all your players. If I click active battles, that's going to show me any battles that are ongoing right now. So I'm going to create one of each of these actually. I'm going to publish it to all playlists. And then actually I could create another one by duplicating this and then just switching to the active battles version. And right now, unfortunately, there's not ongoing battles because somebody needs to come in and check them, but those will be added to my screen. If you had ongoing battles, there would be info on that screen. The one other thing that I want to call out as you're starting a battles program, so to speak, getting people more involved in this, is that it is very important with battles, if you want your users to initiate them, that you have metrics that are accurate. It's always important in SalesScreen to have metrics that are accurately reflecting the things you're tracking. But it becomes more important to name your metrics in a way that it's very clear what they're measuring, so that when people go in, they are picking what to battle based on the metrics you've created. So you want to make sure that they know that what they're picking and whether it's something that's important to their general targets. So if you ever want to take another look at your metrics, you can go to Manage Metrics. In my case, these are labeled pretty clearly. We have total number outbound calls, average duration, total calls, things like that. But it's another thing that you want to be aware of is your key metrics, because if you noticed before, the metrics that I was first suggested, I didn't see all these. I could have if I clicked the all button, but I was only suggested my key metrics. So they're going to be highly encouraged to pick battles based on their key metrics. So you want to make sure those key metrics are something that are genuinely key and important to your organization. And that those key metrics, at least, maybe you have some internal metrics that don't get used very often that might be a little bit esoteric in their title. But make sure those key metrics are really clearly labeled so that when people are starting battles, they have some easy options, and you know that those options are going to be things that directly contribute to the health of your business. In order to change those key metrics, just to give you a quick reminder, the key metrics actually aren't set in the metrics section. They are set at the organization level. So you'd click Manage Organization, and then you would be able to go in and on your company section or for individual teams, you can go and give those metrics. So in this case, I'm not changing anything, but if I wanted to add a new primary metric, or maybe a new secondary metric on, total answered calls, I'll do that for now. You can change that at that level. And now those key metrics will show up for everybody unless you've customized per team. So there's some different ways to encourage battles beyond just pairing people into them that I'm going to talk about a little bit now to sort of ease people into them. We find that once people start using battles, they're really, really well enjoyed, but sometimes people are a little bit shy to start. So there's a few different things you can do to change the way this, to make it more friendly, make it easier to jump into. I'm going to stop sharing my demo. I'm going to share from my presentation again. So one of them is to maybe not battle based on sales metrics right away. Sometimes that can be a little bit intimidating. We do have a Strava integration that you can find in Manage Integrations and enable on the company level. Your individual users will also then have to opt into the Strava integration because it's their own private data. But once you've integrated Strava, there's going to be a bunch of activities like run, hike, jog, things like that, and people can battle on that. So maybe just battling on something that they do completely outside of work can be really good. This is also a really good way to do any wellness initiatives that your company might have. We've seen people run these maybe in concordance with their insurers' wellness initiatives that they're doing. So it's a really nice way to check in on people, help them have some more fun in and outside of work. You can also create other side metrics, maybe ones that you just log manually. We've done some competitions and battles based on quality of life things at SalesScreen, like unloading and loading the dishwasher. So you could even do that. You could create a metric for a manual activity that is unloading the office break room dishwasher, and then have people log when they do it. And that's something that people can battle on that feels a little bit more low pressure if they're a bit shyer about it. For people who start those battles, when you get them going, you want to encourage that. So I would encourage you to endorse people who are in battles. You can go into the Manage Battles section and check out the battle history and see who's been doing a lot of battling in general, who's been winning a lot of battles, and then maybe just who's been initiating them, whether or not they win, because that could be something that people are a little bit shy about. So if you look in your battles history, the battler on the left is always going to be the one who made the challenge. So maybe you could call out somebody who does a lot of challenging, whether or not they win very often. Another thing that we've seen work for battle adoption is offering to match the winnings. You don't even need to do this forever. You can maybe make this an opening period of a month or 6 weeks, and just make it known that anyone who has a battle, you're going to match the winnings. So that's makes it a little bit more high reward possibility for people without having to risk quite so many of their own coins, especially if you have a coin system that doesn't give a lot of coins for each activity that they do. Those coins might be a little bit precious and they're afraid to start risking them. So matching the winnings is a good way to help out with that. We're going to move on a little bit to the social feed and some ideal ways to use that. So just how the settings are affected by each other and how they're going to affect browser pop-ups. So basically, there are defaults of what's going to post your feed if you do nothing. If you make no initial changes to your feed, you're going to see on your social feed announcements of achievement badges, of battles, endorsements, birthdays, new employees, work anniversaries, reward shop activities. So when a new reward comes into your reward shop, when somebody purchases a reward, and missions. These will all get automatically posted to the feed, but you can toggle them off or limit it so that only certain teams' activity shows. And then additional customizations, which are usually done when you first come into SalesScreen, so you might already have these, is that you can add posts for the metrics and activities of your choosing. And you can limit these posts to certain teams' activities as well, or also you could limit them to a minimum value threshold. So maybe you only want to celebrate close deals over 1,000 on the feed and anything else won't post. We're going to talk how to manage that feed right now. Just bear with me. We're going to switch back over. So we head to our social feed, which is now named home. And I'm going to click. Sorry. I've got 2 feeds here. So if I use this, I can go and look at each specific feed that I might want to work on. If I click more actions, I can click edit, which in this case will take me directly to edit that B2B outbound feed. Or I could go into manage feeds and just see a full list of everything and see what I want to do. If I go into the main feed coverage crew, I can click edit. I can also copy that basic feed to create more if I wanted to do maybe different feeds for each team if you had a very big organization. So I'm going to click edit. I could add a description here if I wanted, if it wasn't clear what the feed was for. In this case, it really is. And in this section here, we have our sources. That's all those defaults I was talking about. But if for whatever reason, maybe we didn't want to share reward activity, we could switch that here. And I've already pulled in a metric to track, which is all sales revenue. And we've got our threshold here. I could maybe put that sales revenue threshold at a minimum of 1,000. I could also, maybe I could limit, if I wanted to see like business to business, or if I only wanted to see my outbound teams, I could filter it there. If I wanted to add another metric, I'd click this plus button here. And we'll say maybe quote sent total value is going to get posted on the feed. So now I'll be able to see quotes sent that come in as well. And maybe I'll limit the threshold here to 1,000 as well. Whatever you do, make sure to save your changes in the bottom right if you like them. And then you can also create different feeds that have differing access between teams, which is the most common usage, I would say, of multiple feeds. So you can see here already, we've got the B2B outbound feed, and I am doing similar. It's very similar to my main feed. In this case, I'm doing all sales revenue and total answered calls. And the way I did this is by going in anything other than that top feed, the default feed, you're going to see another section at the top before your sources called teams. And this is all the teams that I am pulling in to this feed. In this case, this is just as it's named, the B2B outbound feed. If I just wanted to do a full, like just B2B feed, I could maybe just have those 2 teams there. I'm going to keep it B2B outbound for now. But if you had a scenario where you only wanted certain teams to be able to access the feed, but you had, we wanted to be able to have them see everything come in, you could do that too. So maybe, for instance, you want this to be the B2B outbound feed. You only want them to see their own sales activity, things like that. But maybe you want them to see everybody's birthdays so they know, because maybe they don't check the default feed very often. They're always living in B2B outbound. I can go in and click custom. And in this case, it's going to default to all teams. But again, there's a lot of different scenarios you could do. You could maybe say, I'm only going to show them the birthdays for both B2B teams, even though it's all B2B outbound in activity. So there's different ways you can customize that. The default is that it's only going to pull in activities for the team that's set to access this feed. But this is a way to kind of create a split there. I'm going to turn that off. And then in terms of how the posts that come in actually look, you can customize that a good deal. That's just not done at the feed section. We're going to do that on the activity type because you were setting the default text that will show up for feed posts for each activity. So we do that in manage activity types. In my case, I'm mostly pull in based on closed won, the sale. So you can go to either the activity type level, which is what we suggest you do it on unless you want to have very different text for multiple different kinds of sales, but usually it makes the most sense to just have it at the top level and use your variables to make things unique. So if you click textual presentation, this is where we set the text for both the feed and also the screen settings in the right column. We're focused on the feed right now. As you see, we have different variables at the bottom that we can use to customize these posts a little bit. So in this case, it's going to be made a new type, which is my, auto, my different kinds of policies I have, because this is an insurance company account. And you can look and see exactly what those fields are to pick from as well. So in this case, type might be auto insurance, health insurance, life insurance, etc. But in your case, you'll know what your options are. Made a new type of activity, which in this case is always going to be sale, because that's the one activity I have. And it's worth value, which is also going to pull from that report of the activity so they can see the exact amount that sale is worth. And you can add emojis in this feed, which is really nice. So keep that in mind. If I make adjustments, maybe I add another $3 bills flying there. You'll see I have the option to save changes. Make sure to do that when you're making changes to your text. If you wanted to do that at the individual sale level, say I had multiple types of activities here and you wanted to do something different for each one, I would just go to that activity and then I would click the textual presentation tab there. So the one thing that you might want to keep in mind when you're setting your feed is that this is going to affect what browser pop-ups come with celebration videos. So this is not going to limit what you can see on the office screens if you have one, on the wall. But while people are logged in, you might have noticed in the past those little celebrations in the corner. And you might wonder, how do you determine who sees those celebrations? And the way it works is when you're in the browser, you'll get the celebration pop-ups for anything that you would ordinarily see in a feed that you have access to. So bear in mind when you're setting those access to when you're setting those feed accesses, you're also setting who's going to see the pop-up celebrations if they're logged into SalesScreen. So there's some fun ways we can engage with the feeds as well. It tends to be good if you encourage people to go into the social feeds, check out what other people are doing, engage with each other a little bit there. Just anything that creates a more social environment around your actual work, around your actual activity, does motivate that activity. So if people know that when they make a sale, they're going to get a bunch of congratulations on their feed post, it makes it more of a motivational technique. So the feed isn't something that it's just passively logging things. It becomes somewhere where people celebrate. It becomes somewhere where people go for inspiration. They get to see, everyone else has been making sales all day. I really want to make sure that I keep up and that my name's up there a lot too. So some suggestions we have to increase engagement as people are getting to more familiar with the feed or maybe getting familiar with SalesScreen is that you could do other things in the feed as well. So I'm sure you noticed at the top, there was that place where you can post your own message. If you didn't, we'll liquid it. But you can post custom messages on your feed, and we've seen customers use these for various games. In this example, this is a Halloween feed game where people are posting clues about their costumes for the Halloween happy hour that they were having. You could also do maybe some GIF battle type games where everyone needs to post a certain kind of GIF, and that the one that the user that posts the funniest one as a comment gets the prize. So you can incorporate some fun activities into the feed as well, just to encourage people to start checking it out, poke around a little bit more. The other thing that you can do to encourage feed use is make endorsements. Those endorsements show up on the feed. That's where they live. That's where people can notice and comment on them. So the same way that people want to see their name often on the in terms of sales or closed deals, it's also really nice to see your name show up on the feed with like a little bit of a love note, maybe some coins for something that you did that maybe people wouldn't have noticed previously. The other thing you can do is just like we have hype slides for battles, we have a slide that just shows recent activity on the feed. So for people whose experience of SalesScreen is mostly seeing it on a screen on the wall, you can draw attention to the fact that there is this social aspect to it and they can go in and be a part of it. So I will briefly show you that screen as well and how to do that. So you go to, once again, manage screens, click create new slide. And this is going to be in recognition. And then the subcategory is feed. Again, there's nothing else to change about this. You can just choose which feed you're doing. I'm going to say that the whole company coverage crew feed is the one that we're doing right now. You could set a different background if you want. The main event, though, is the post. So even if you don't do anything, it's still going to be pretty engaging. And then save and publish that. So as we get to the end, I do want to share a few words about SalesScreen Labs, which we have talked about before, but I just want to bring your attention to them if you haven't seen them. If you go to Manage Settings, there's a new tab called Labs, and that includes any features that we currently have in beta that you can use for free. Right now, our beta testers are looking at Scout AI, which will create another tab right here. I've already enabled it where I can ask questions of our AI program based on metrics that I have. And we're going to take a deeper look at Scout next month in this series as well. So that's something you might want to check out if you're thinking about enabling it. If you're enabling it and you're not quite sure how to use it, that will be a great thing to check into. And the other lab is also related to AI. So you could check these off individually, but that one's giving you a separate chat section, the Enable Scout AI. Insights powered by Scout will give you some information as different summaries of people's performance. And that's a little bit more passive as far as generating these insights for you. The other thing that I want to share with you that you might not be aware of is the SalesScreen Power Players program. We like to hear that you are enjoying SalesScreen, and we want to be able to share those stories, and we want to reward you for sharing those stories. So in our Power Players program, which is going to be linked in the slides that you'll get if you're not going to memorize this URL from the top, just list different social activities that you can do that share your experience with SalesScreen, and you can be eligible for various gift card rewards in return. So I'm just going to briefly go through some of these. You can do a LinkedIn tag, and that can earn you either $15 or €15 gift card for your posts. If you highlight your achievements by sharing your badges on LinkedIn, another 15 for a post. You can share a G2 review about your experience with SalesScreen, and there's no minimum requirements for how you need to rate us. Any G2 review, we want your honest opinion, will earn you a $25 or euro gift card. And then all these three at the top that we've discussed can apply to managers or end users. These last ones are a little bit more specific to managers, although if we had a particularly good end user experience, we were not close to that. But we do have a podcast from Pain Point to On Point. And if you want to share some of your experiences strategizing around gamification, how you've utilized SalesScreen in your particular company, your organization, we would love to hear from you. So you can reach out. And if we use you as a guest on our podcast, you'll get a $100 or euro gift card. Similarly, we have our customer story section in the website, which is cataloging, again, your experiences with SalesScreen, with gamification, the effect it's had on your organization. That's another 100. And if you are able to join us on a prospect call, maybe with somebody who has a similar use case to yours that is considering using SalesScreen, you could become a reference for another 100. And then you can refer a friend and earn rewards when they attend a demo. So that is more specific to where you're based and how whether your friend ends up becoming a SalesScreen customer. But if they have a qualified meeting, you will be able to get something for that. So I encourage you to go to that section. Just think about it a little. If any of these apply to you, it's, a fun way to earn rewards, and we love to hear your feedback. So thank you so much for joining. And next month, be sure to check in the last Tuesday of the month. We're doing a Scout AI overview, and we're going to get a little bit more in depth about how the AI features work and different ways you could leverage them for your company. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.